Thank you for listening to the Lending Thoughts podcast sponsored by Rocket Pro. Today I'm joined by my guest, Brendan Woodfull. Brendan is the Divisional Vice President of Rocket Pro, a division of Rocket Mortgage Canada. Brendan specifically leads our business dealing with mortgage agents and brokers from across the country. He's learned so much through that process. I thought it would be awesome to have a conversation with him. We dive into the broker community. We dive into talking about sports and how it pertains to team building. And we finish out by having a conversation about generational wealth, both in business and in life. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. Have a listen today. Brendan, thanks for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's good to have you. Longtime friend.
Yep.
Going back to our days working together in the United States.
Yeah, we go way back.
Yes, we do. Also a founding team member of Edison Financial, now known as Rocket. So spent the last 4.5, going on 5 years working together here as well. So it's going to be an exciting conversation. I know a bit about you, but not all. And I think it would be awesome if you told our audience a little bit more about yourself. So can you tell us your life story in 60 seconds or less, please?
60 seconds is going to be tough, but I'll try. So I was born in Ottawa, came to Windsor, just outside of Windsor, Lakeshore, Ontario, when I was 4 or 5 years old, and grew up in Windsor for the better part of my life. When I was 15, I got signed to Toronto FC Academy, so I ended up moving to Toronto in high school, actually. Lived with a billet family, did that whole thing, ended up getting a scholarship to go to Oregon State University, so literally went to the other side of the country, and then ended up transferring to Oakland University, which is in Michigan, so came back this way. Was there for the last 3 years of my university career. Had some bad injuries my senior year of university and kind of changed my perspective. You know, I probably could have kept going and maybe played in Australia or something. Wouldn't have made it to the top level, but probably could have kept going with soccer. But those injuries kind of made me change the direction of where I was going, and ultimately got referred into Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage today, as a mortgage associate. So started working there. Was there for about 1.5 years. I am Canadian, so my visa expired. I had to come back to Canada. Ended up going to Toronto, getting a job on Bay Street at Bank of Montreal, working as an advisor. And then Chad Weinbaum, our old CRO, my old VP at Quicken Loans, gave me a call and said, coming to Canada as Edison Financial. And yeah, worked my way up from a mortgage agent, director of sales, RVP, leading the brokerage, most recently jumping over to Rocket Pro and leading Rocket Pro.
So it's a lot there.
That was a lot.
I know where to start. Do I start in Ottawa? Do I start in Oregon? Do I start in Michigan? But I'm curious. It's interesting that you get to see this mortgage game in a couple of different countries. And I want to learn a little bit more about that in terms of the differences of what you've seen on both sides of the border. But before we jump in, I want to just understand, like, what role do you think soccer played on your ability to jump into the corporate world? Because, I mean, you've played, that's some pretty high level soccer there. It's quite competitive, right?
Yeah.
If you say like FC and, playing at a couple different universities and playing in top clubs growing up. But like, what did you learn from top level soccer that you brought into the business world that you still carry with you now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think right away, just the discipline, like to get to that level in any sport, like you need to have discipline. You need to show up every day. Your life is that. And you have to put the effort and the time into your craft. And I don't think that's any different with anything. But I'd say the biggest thing that kind of helped me is the drive and the motivation that you have to win in sports. Jumping into a sales role, being as a mortgage associate or mortgage banker at Quicken Loans in the US, it's the strong survive, and you got to put up the numbers to kind of stay around and kind of hang in there. So just having that drive and motivation to win and hit those numbers and hit those targets, more than anything, I would say that kind of came from my background of sports.
Yeah. How about teams? Something I think about. I also grew up playing soccer competitively as well, but being in that environment was the first opportunity that I got to feel like I was a part of a team, much like the team that I felt like I was with when I was playing soccer. When you play at a very high level in business or in sport, there are some universal truths to teams. And is there anything that you sort of took away or you think carried with you from the team days into the business world?
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I transferred from Oregon State to Oakland was because I went in with a freshman class of 12 freshmen. And by the time it came to summer break, 10 of those 12 freshmen had decided to transfer out and leave because of the culture on the team.
Wow.
And I was left there with a decision, hey, do I want to transfer? And, everyone I came in here with decided to leave. So I ultimately made the same decision and left and transferred. But the team I went to at Oakland, we were so tight knit and so close. And whether we lost or we won, we were always, together hanging out. That camaraderie was there. And it was a very successful team. We went to the NCAA tournament twice. And I look at our team here at Rocket, and in comparison to some of the other teams that I've been a part of, Rocket Canada, we had the benefit of being small originally and getting really close. But then as we scaled and got bigger, I wouldn't say we're huge yet, but we're, a couple hundred people. But it still feels like we have that camaraderie and sense of team. I think sometimes we take it for granted. Like that's not the norm always in the workplace, sports teams, having that camaraderie that goes a long way, because ultimately it comes from trust. Like we trust each other, which means we can push each other. We can call each other out when, one of us is not doing something the right way, or I expect better from you. All that comes from the trust and the teamwork.
Yeah, I completely agree. So now you've taken that, originally growing out a team in the direct consumer channel, spun off and now lead the Rocket Pro business, dealing with brokers. And it's very different in independent agent world, mostly, right?
It is.
You are mostly on an island. Most independent agents work from home. The majority actually don't even do it full time, right? And many don't get all the same levels of training and morning team meetings every day and mindset coaching and technical coaching and all those other things. What do you think you've learned from that team aspect? And what do you think you've been able to observe now being into the pro space, where you think that our independent agents that you work with can benefit from team camaraderie?
That's a good question. I think, like you said, a lot of independent agents, they're kind of out there on an island. But what I've seen, and I've seen it with a couple of the brokerages that we're currently working with, the ones that kind of establish that group of brokers around them, it's almost like a small group to lean on each other, are the ones that really progress and learn from each other. The ones that kind of stay on the island and don't seek out collaboration, whether that's with brokers in your brokerage, or maybe it's brokers from outside. Maybe it's not even just mortgage brokers. Maybe it's realtors or financial advisors, but the ones that kind of have that core group of people to lean on, bounce ideas back and forth on, tend to be the ones that are, evolving and growing much faster. And honestly, sometimes those brokers can lean on lenders as well. Like your BDM is a great resource to lean on and help grow your business and get ideas. And the ones that I've seen have done that are the ones that are growing the most.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. It's like the BDM is part of your team.
Yeah.
Right? And your lenders are part of your team. So you were originating mortgages as a mortgage agent here when we first started. Gave you the benefit of seeing how so many other lenders in our space actually do this job. And now you run a lender that goes direct to mortgage agents and asks for their business under the idea that, you're maybe faster or more transparent or easier to get a hold of. What are you hearing from agents in that space that say, like, hey, here's what we need from our lenders? Like, what do you think the agent needs from the lenders? And what did you observe in your time potentially that you think you want to deliver to other agents now?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that stand out. I'd say the first one, which has kind of been how we've gone to market with Rocket Pro, is speed. But even more specifically, it's speed to certainty. Like, how quickly can I tell my client that, yes, we've satisfied all the conditions, everything's looking good, we basically just need to meet with the lawyer and close this? How quickly can I get to that point? That's what brokers want. And there's a lot of different things that you can do to provide that level of speed, whether it's process, whether it's technology. But that is our thing at Rocket Pro, is speed and getting that certainty as quickly as possible. The second piece I would say is care. It sounds so simple, but returning a phone call or answering every time you get a call from a broker as a BDM, underwriters responding to emails, and just showing that level of care that, hey, we understand there's a client at the end of this, and the end goal is to get that client closed as quickly as possible and as smoothly as possible. And just showing that level of care that we're all in this together. We're all trying to get there. Speed and care to me are the two things that I saw an opportunity as a broker that lenders could do a better job of. And that's really what we're trying to focus on at Rocket Pro.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think when a lot of people think about lenders, they don't really think about technology. And
No.
something that we talk about a lot at Rocket is technology. I'm curious, what are some things that brokers ask for? Like, how much do you ask them about technology? How much time do you spend listening to their feedback regarding technology? What do you think the current state of technology is in the broker lender space? And what do you want to achieve there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of opportunity. I'd say one of the most glaring opportunities is probably in terms of document review. When a deal gets submitted to us, how quickly can we review those documents? And there's AI tools now that will allow us to review those documents quicker and essentially scan a pay stub and say, hey, this is exactly what's on the application, or no, this doesn't match what's on the application, which frees up time for the underwriter, which allows us to get that deal out faster and get it conditionally approved quicker, get it to broker complete quicker. Speaking of brokers, that seems to be not something necessarily that they're asking for, but it's what they're looking for is, again, the speed to certainty. So that's a tool right away that I see as like a big opportunity, which we're looking into and we're trying to implement into our process. But I think there's probably going to be a lot of other AI tools that are, implemented into our business to help free up time for our underwriters, our mortgage officers, our BDMs, and really just allow us to get deals out faster.
So said differently, not so much front end technology by request of agents of their lenders, but rather, I don't care what you have to do.
Yeah.
I need speed to certainty.
Yeah.
That's what you've learned.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very interesting. Much the same as I have conversations both on this podcast and with brokers directly. It's not so much concern with technology for the sake of technology, but rather technology is an enabler. Allow me to deliver the client experience that I need to deliver for my clients.
Yeah, exactly.
Clients don't care whatever your tech stack is in the background. They just want to know that it's been super smooth to submit their documents and they just heard back as fast as possible. I do want to go back to this point around care though, because it's funny, you talked about care and then everything you said behind it was all in relation to communication. So what have you learned about communication and care with working with brokers all across the country now? And what do you think that everyone would benefit from hearing in regard to that?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when we started this business as Edison Financial, we didn't have a ton of technology, but we kind of had the same philosophies of care and speed and giving clients what they are looking for. But we're able to deliver a high level of care with basically just a phone. Like that's really all we had.
Yeah.
We had an Excel sheet and a phone. Yeah. And just being able to communicate and provide transparency to your client, that was an eye-opening thing. Like we were able to provide a very high level of service with very minimal technology. And when we launched Rocket Pro, we were a little bit further ahead than we were when we started Edison Financial, but that same concept applied where it's like, our BDMs, our underwriters, if they just pick up the phone and call and provide transparency to brokers throughout the process, that takes you a long way. And brokers appreciate that. And that's something that we always want to be able to deliver and provide, but it requires very little tech and it requires very little process.
Yeah.
It's just literally understanding that brokers want transparency, their clients want transparency, and always making sure that you're providing that through communication.
Yeah. So simple, right? Just an update. Say, hey, I'm looking at this. I'll shoot you a text or I'll give you a call when I'm done. And then, hey, got it done. Looks like we're approved here. Got a few conditions out there for you. If you'll take a look at your email, just send them over. And as soon as you can get those over to me, then I'll review those and we'll get this deal wrapped up. Like, sounds like caveman stuff. But
or if a deal's sitting overnight, like a text from your underwriter saying, hey, I'm going to get to it first thing in the morning. Just it relieves so much pressure to the broker. Just by that one simple text.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. So I want to talk a little bit about what you've learned. So you've done a lot. Like, you worked on the US side in the direct consumer origination channel. You helped us start our direct consumer origination business here in Canada. You were one of our first originators. You went on to lead a team of originators. You then led multiple teams of originators. And again, now you lead a business that goes direct to the broker channel and tries to deliver a great lending experience through that. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned through the process, and specifically process itself around process building? Because one thing that always impressed me about you, and still does, is your ability to really just simplify things, execute, and try to build scalable processes that, don't just work for you, but can work for the masses. You talked about, like, there was no technology. We didn't even have a CRM. In fact, to start, we didn't even have a dialer beyond our cell phones.
That's true.
So our original dialer was our cell.
Yeah.
And then our original CRM were notebooks in front of us. When you call back the Smith family at 5 p.m. and then you're running your calendar off of it. And like, that was it, right? Crazy to think that we did mortgages that way, but we certainly did. And this wasn't 100 years ago, by the way. This was like 5 years ago. So
pre-COVID, BC.
Yeah. But then you go on and you like build all these processes so that other agents can build their businesses. What do you think other agents can learn from you regarding process building and how to set up their businesses?
Yeah, I'll never forget Bob Walters. He was our COO for Rocket Companies. He came in and did a talk to, I think we're a year into the business, to Rocket Canada, but he talked about Pokioke, the Japanese term that basically means error-free, and creating processes that are error-free. And an example of this is like a microwave. If you open the microwave door, the microwave won't run. That kind of changed my whole perspective in terms of creating processes as we are scaling. And as often as possible, you can't always do it, but as often as possible, look for those opportunities to create error-proof processes in your business. And an example of this would be like a force choice in Salesforce to make sure that somebody's clicking the right buttons and completing the right part of the form. And just looking for those opportunities. But then on top of that, when I look at an agent's day or a broker's day, they have a $1 task, a $10 task, and a $100 task. And a lot of times we kind of get caught up doing these $1 and $10 tasks. And it's just admin work, and it's just these small things. And really it's looking for the opportunity to try to remove those $1 and $10 tasks. So you can spend more time on those $100 tasks and pay yourself, and make sure that you're always focusing on the right things. And whether that's through automating those $1 and $10 tasks, or maybe specialization, creating a role for that $1 and $10 task so that you can focus on the $100 task. So those are kind of the two things that stand out to me in terms of building our process. And with Rocket Pro, we're still new, we're still growing. And these are things that I'm constantly thinking about, because we have a long way to go, and we have a lot of processes and things that are going to change and things that we need to build over the next few years.
Yeah. I'm thinking about assistance when you talk about that.
Yeah.
You talk about, $110, $100 an hour tasks, which I think is such an awesome mental model for an agent when you're doing your job in the day to day. And you just, you can look back on your week sometimes and maybe have created zero revenue, but feel like you spent the entire week working.
Yeah.
And you're like, how did this happen? What happened? And why am I exhausted?
Yeah.
I made no money. I got nothing done, that is tangible in terms of creating business success for me. But you have these agents out there building businesses. How do you think about assistance or leveraging the help of a team, if you will, however you want to describe them, to help you build your mortgage business and get you out of some of those, $10 an hour tasks that you could focus on $100 an hour tasks?
I think it's a great idea for independent agents, independent brokers, to look at their business and try to identify, what stage of the funnel can I pass off to somebody else? And what stage of the funnel does it make sense to pass off to somebody else? And also look at what you do really well. A lot of the times, agents and brokers will say they're really good at the relationship building, the sales side of things. So focus on that. And when it comes to, working on fulfillment, collecting documents, pass that off. Look for an opportunity to pass that off to somebody. And, obviously you got to get to a certain level in your business to be able to afford to do that and for it to make sense mathematically. But I think even on a smaller scale, there's so many tools out there nowadays to help automate some of the smaller tasks, and just always be looking for those opportunities to relieve those smaller tasks and pass things off.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about AI nowadays.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, you could add up all the time spent. If you talk to enough clients in a week, let's say you're one of our agents and you're going to talk to, let's say, 20 clients a week. Well, historically, that was 20 clients that you had to leave notes on. So that way, when you called them back, you had to remember everything that you said. But now with AI transcription of phone calls, you really should not spend a lot of time writing notes, right? Like that should just happen for you. And over the course of the week, that might be 3 hours, 4 hours of just note taking that otherwise gets replaced by actual doing. And I think you said something there that stuck out to me, which is like when you're an agent, the $100 tasks, the $1,000 tasks that I think about are like they're selling and marketing. They're selling and marketing. Every second that you're spending processing a document, reviewing bank statements, reviewing pay stubs, like that stuff all needs to get done. But those are the things that you can look at to do a cheaper way or a more efficient way, if you will, so that you could focus on what you're great at. And by the way, if you're great at reviewing pay stubs and bank statements, you may want to think about going into underwriting.
That's a good point.
You may want to think about it. And the great news is we always need great ones. And I know that many other lenders have them in high regard and in high demand, but those are two very different skill sets.
Yep.
And I think the best thing that an agent can do, from my view, and it sounds like yours, is the selling and marketing piece, communication, taking care of clients, giving them speed to certainty, giving them the communication to show them that you care, many of those things that you talked about as well. So let me ask you, you are a competitive individual. You have played sports at the highest level. You have performed in the mortgage world at the highest level, both in the United States as a great mortgage banker and in Canada as a great mortgage agent, as we call them here. What drives and motivates you to push yourself to the point that you do, to always want to be the best and to really just deliver?
Yeah, I mean, being in the sales role, like I said, coming from an athletic background, I think that drive really to win pushes you a long way when you're an individual contributor. But joining Edison or Rocket in Canada, just being part of this business from day one, what drives and motivates me today is getting our business to what it's capable of getting to. If you think about it, we're almost like in 1985 when Rock Financial started in the US, like they started as a brokerage, and 40 years later, they're the largest mortgage lender in the US. And I look at where we're at today in Canada, like we're a little bit less than 5 years into this, but we've got a ton of opportunity ahead of us. And that's what drives me. And that's what motivates me, is seeing the potential of what we can achieve in Canada.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It is. Yeah.
So how will you know when we've achieved our mission? I'm curious, because it's one thing to get up every day and go at it and push yourself hard. And yeah, I mean, the look across the border to see what Rocket has done in the United States is certainly a massive driving force. But I like to say, like, there's no Oscar moment in what we do, right? There's no like we made it moment. Very few people get to go on stage and give their big speech about how they made it in this world. But as you look forward and hopefully someday get to look back, how will you know that you've achieved that goal, and what do you think that looks like to you?
Yeah, that's a great point, because there is never that moment where it's like, okay, we've made it. But I can say I've been fortunate in my career to have great leaders, yourself, Chad, Hash, and you guys have seen me grow in my life. I've pretty much grown up in Rocket. Like, you've seen me get engaged, about to get married, bought a home.
Getting pretty serious?
Yeah, it's getting pretty serious. But seeing people that I lead, progress not only in their careers, but in their life, and be with Rocket, for 10, 15, 20 years. To me, 10, 15, 20 years, look back at this podcast today and listen to this conversation. If I'm able to help people progress in their career and progress in their life, to me, that's a good moment of like, okay, we've done something special here.
Yeah. Opportunity for others. Pretty cool. So to wrap that up, as a final question, what do you want your overall impact to be? You spoke to some of that just now regarding your impact on business, if you will, but also in life as you think about impact and legacy. And I know you're a young guy with many, many years ahead of you. How would you like to look back and reflect and say, I made a great impact and it's a good legacy for me?
Yeah, from a business perspective, I mean, it's exactly what I just talked about, helping people grow in their career and helping people grow in their life. But I guess from a personal standpoint, I heard this on a podcast a couple of years ago and it stuck with me for a long time. And the speaker, he was talking about generational wealth. And he's like, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to achieve generational wealth when it comes to like a monetary standpoint. I don't think I'm going to be able to achieve generational wealth. Maybe, who knows, maybe I'll win the lottery. But what he was talking about was generational wealth in the standpoint of like your values. And the greatest thing that I can give my future kids will be a good last name. And what I mean by that is, how I treat people today, how I show up to work, my work ethic, my impact in the community. Those are the things that I'm going to be able to instill in my future kids and pass on. And that's generational wealth, right? It's providing a good last name and a good core set of values. And when I think about what my lasting impact will be, that's kind of what I think about. It's how much of an impact can I give to everyone around me, and then pass that on to my future kids and provide those same set of values.
Yeah, the ability to impact future generations.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you and I have had many of conversations on this topic, and I think that probably say for yourself that your parents did that for you, and in a way that is its own form of generational wealth that was created, and then now getting to build something of your own and passing that forward. It's an incredible legacy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I think about often. My kids will have it better than I had it for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I worry about that a little bit, right? Like, is that spoiling them? Does that not build the character it takes to win out in this world? But I think there's something beautiful in creating a world of opportunity for others, both in work and with our families. And as you know, I like to say, there is no such thing as work-life balance. There's only life balance. And if you can truly, do anything how you do everything, that's an ultimate test of you as a human being. So, Brendan, thank you for everything that you do for this business. Thank you for everything that you do for me, both in this business and as a friend personally. I'd love to have another conversation with you on the record someday soon.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great one.
You too.